Hey, welcome back to another video. This topic is going to be validating yourself. I had some comments recently that made me think about this, where some people were commenting or chiming in saying, all you people are trying to diagnose people, and you don't have the skills, and you don't have this, and you don't have that, and it's put down, put down, put down. And I was thinking about this because I remember when I was in the beginning parts of this, understanding or having somebody not validate, but listen to your story and go, oh my God, holy crap, that's terrible, right? That's a very powerful thing. And it is beneficial in the beginning parts of this because, you feel like you're on the right path. However, one of the things that's really potentially problematic is if you're talking to people who are saying stuff like that. Oh, you're just, blowing it out of proportion, or you're doing this or that. You can start to second guess yourself. So the main thing that you need to understand is you need to understand your truth is really what matters. Okay, so what do I mean by that? What I mean is that this is not an exercise in trying to rally a bunch of people to your side and turn the opinion of all the other people around you and get flying monkeys to abandon the toxic person and rally to your side. And the reality of it is at the beginning parts of this, that's exactly what you want. You want people to realize that you are telling the truth, that everything that you're saying is real, that the other person is a monster, and that you're right, they're wrong. They pick you, they march the other person through the town square, pointing and yelling at them that they're their problem, right? The reality is that although that would be great, that would be an awesome turn of events, it typically doesn't happen. And if you're chasing that, it will derail your progress. It'll derail what you're ultimately trying to accomplish. And that is healing yourself and getting your life back, right? Breaking free from the spell, breaking the connection, and starting to take the space that this situation and your ex occupy in your mind and in your heart, and replace it with something better. Replace it with at least getting them out of it, even if it's just peace, and then ultimately being able to get your life back. So this means that you have to be the one that believes what happens. That is critical. You are the key cog in this whole thing. Not convincing your friends, not convincing the flying monkeys, not convincing your family, their family, your church. The foundation falls with you. You are the one who has to basically build your foundation, understand what happened to you, believe it to your core. I mean, and this is, and I'll put a link to one of my older videos called Absolute Thinking in the card above. So look for that, or maybe I'll put it in the description as well. The key point of that is to accept what you're dealing with. And if you need to say that that person, your ex, has a personality disorder, NPD, BPD, whatever the case may be, you just believe it. You just say, that's the reality, that's the truth, and you move on. Not that that's the reality, that's the truth. Now I need to go convince everybody that that's the reality and that's the truth. That's not what this is about. See, the problem is no one else's opinion or view really matters. And the reason that's important, I say that, is because people might not believe you. They might say that you're just playing the victim. You're playing the victim. You're just blaming everything on the ex. You're not taking any accountability for your situation. And the problem is whenever you're in that mode and people are saying that, you're already second guessing yourself, right? Somebody who's really a target of a toxic person, who finds themselves in this situation, Your brain feels like it's been scrambled. You don't trust yourself, and you're trying to make sense of all of this. And if you have other people who are saying different things, like, they might come up with some other excuse that you're not right, that you're, what big one is, you can't diagnose somebody. You're not a medical professional, which is true. I'm putting that out there. You got to be careful when you start throwing mental health disorder terms around. If that's what helps you deal with what you're going through, you're like, okay, like with the absolute thinking, it's like, okay, if this person went through the appropriate process, they would be diagnosed. And you're not saying that to then go change the mind of somebody. You're saying that for you. You're saying that so that you can go, okay, I am dealing with an NPD, a narcissistic person with narcissistic personality disorder, a borderline personality disorder. To be perfectly honest, you could expand this back to the person is a drug addict. The person is an alcoholic. The person is whatever the case may be. If you're trapped and it's emotionally trapped and still connected to the person, you have to accept the reality of what you're dealing with and stop living in your own fantasy land on what you hope the situation is. Like, you hope that they do not have a personality disorder. You hope that they do not have an addictive disorder. You hope that it's just an event. It's just the particular time. The problem is whenever you're trying to deal with this, other people can be telling you that what you think is true is not true, that you're blowing it out of proportion, that everybody has issues. One of the comments I received earlier was basically, and I think I mentioned it at the beginning of this video, was that, you guys can't, diagnose. You're doing this wrong. You're making you're making a mistake, and you need to go look at other channels that are more, technical and clinical. and if you need that to help you understand what you're dealing with, that's fine. But you have to be careful about this, because as you're communicating this with people, that's the type of stuff you can get. And what I will tell you from experience, when I was in the early part of this, trying to make sense of something, when somebody is saying, no, you're wrong, when you don't, like I said before, when you don't trust yourself, will just send you down a pit of hell. This rolls back to what I was saying at the beginning of this video. You really have to understand what your truth is, what is really real. And it's really tough because you can be second guessing yourself. Well, the thing is, you have to ultimately validate yourself. Channels like mine and channels like the other ones where people are constantly talking, almost in circles on what's happened to them, and and asking the questions is, does a narcissist do 1, 2, 3, and 4, then 5, 6, 7, and 8, right? Being stuck in that mode to where you're needing to hear that over and over and over again ultimately keeps you trapped in that mode. You want to be able to say, this is the reality, and these are the steps I'm taking to get better. And that is what I did, right? I mean, when I was going through it, and I was in a tailspin, trying to wrap my head around everything that had happened, what was going on, what was happening. And that's ultimately how I came up with the absolute thinking, because I would second guess myself. No, I mean, whenever I finally got the epiphany that the ex, from a professional, that the ex might be an undiagnosed NPD, I would sit there and I would run through my head saying, okay, yes, yes, maybe. And then it would be like, well, maybe not, maybe not, maybe not. And those maybe nots would drive me nuts. It was just really not a good time. And that's ultimately when I was like, okay, I can't keep doing this. I'm just going to say my ex is this, stamped, stamped, sealed, approved. That's what it is. And every time my mind would spin, I would say, no, she's this. Even though no diagnosis, no whatever, but it was just to get me out of that loop, to get me to stop second guessing myself. What ultimately happened with that is initially it was this just painful process. I would have an emotional flashback. I would say that to myself, and then I would have another emotional flashback, and it was like this endless loop. It was like this really quick time. What happened after some time, like within the first month, is instead of that being an instant loop, it would be like a ta-tunk, it would go around, and then it would okay, I'd be okay for a little bit, and then again. And then after a while, it would stabilize, and I would have these longer periods of time. Now, I had to do this for a good month, and then I had to keep doing it. So I would have time, even now I have it, where every once in a while I'll be like, is this really real? But it's like this long periods of time, like months and months and months, and I'll have a flash and I'll have that thing. And it's almost kind of funny. It's like, really? After all this time, that thought would even enter its way in my head. And it's almost like my little voice on my shoulder is like, yeah, I know, I just had to try. And then it goes off in the corner or something. The thing is, at some point you have to realize, and hopefully this is early on, that you no longer need to convince anyone else of what's going on, right? Convincing those family and friends and mutuals and churches and people and work people and all that stuff is an exercise in frustration. It's one of those things where it doesn't accomplish anything for you. Like I mentioned earlier, if you can get some people in the beginning, it doesn't make you feel better. It kind of validates you. But some of us get that, right? Some of us will get some of those people to be like, oh man, that something's not right, but it may not be. So you have to ultimately basically kind of just stop beating yourself up on that. So the really important part about all this is that you're taking your life back and you're getting distance from that emotional connection. And the last thing on this is you really have to surround yourself with good quality people and purge the people who are not. Like when I was talking to you in the beginning of this video about the people who are naysayers, they're saying that you're playing the victim, that you can't diagnose people, that you're acting like a doctor and you're not, everyone plays a part, whatever the excuse is, make sure you're surrounding people who are help building you up. Now, I'm not saying surround yourself with people who are, pity party and like, oh my God, you're such the victim. Though that can be a comfortable place, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you want people who do believe you, right? But who are helping you to move on with your life. And I'm not talking about the people who are saying you need to go get laid or you need to date. I'm talking about people who are really interested in your well-being, who are helpful in the fact of they're like, hey, like in my situation, if they're like saying, hey, Duane, this weekend let's go to the mountains for the weekend, or why don't you come down and whatever, and they're helping you occupy your mind with some new experiences. So the thing is, self-validation is so critical in all of this. And it's the hardest part, right? Because it's yourself. You're actually battling your own mind and your own situation to get you, how am I trying to say this? To basically pull you out of this. That's the beginning parts of this. That's the foundation with it. And I just want to say it because, and let me just try to make this as clear as possible. The important part about this is that you believe your truth and you don't need to convince anyone else. It's like, what happened to you. You know the experience. You know that you're dealing with something traumatic, and that's what matters, right? You self-validate that your experience was real, and then you take active steps to take your life back. Not the easiest thing to do. And it's hard because like I was just saying, you end up having to purge people and stuff like that. But that is really, really important. And I know it's not a message that a lot of people want to hear. A lot of people in the narcissistic abuse recovery community, they want to hear that they're the victim, that the other person's bad, that they're the little, broken butterfly, which we all were, and stay in that, right? Stay in that space. I get it. We all end up staying in there for a little. I did too. You stay in there for a little while, but you don't want to, you don't want to set up and build your house there. So on that, I hope that makes sense. I would love to hear what you think about this topic. If you've been struggling with this, leave that in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. YouTube actually turned on a thing to where when people comment, I can see when they're subscribers. So if you're a subscriber and you have your subscriber things public, then I can see that that is you and try to respond. On that, take care of yourself, and I will chat with you on the next video. All right, bye.